Luna's health is in terrible shape. I've decided to bring her home so I can take care of her. I lowered my gaze. Sitting next to the steaming dishes I'd just set on the table was a medical report. A cancer diagnosis. This was William's idea of an 8th wedding anniversary gift. Sensing the tension, Luna leaned into his arms, her voice soft and pitiful. William, forget it. I don't think Susie wants me here. She let out a delicate sigh. Besides, I'm dying anyway. You don't need to worry about me. Don't talk like that, Luna. You're going to get better. Then William turned to me, his expression dark with anger. Susie Winters, do you even have a soul? You can't even make room for someone who's sick? How are you supposed to be a good example for Caleb? Right on cue, Caleb picked up on his father's anger, his tiny fist smacking against my leg. You're mean. If you don't let the pretty lady stay, I don't want you as my mom anymore. The soup on the table had gone cold. Just like my heart. 2 matching faces, one grown, one small, stared me down with righteous fury. One was the man I'd loved for 8 years. The other was the son I'd raised for 7. Through all the lonely nights when William didn't come home, the only thing keeping me going was Caleb. Once upon a time, he used to hold my hand, look up at me with wide, innocent eyes, and call me mommy. Now, for another woman, he was ready to throw me away. For a moment, the disappointment swallowed my anger whole. I let out a hollow laugh and turned to leave. But William wasn't finished. Susie, Luna is sick. Let her have your room. Pack up your things. You can move into the attic. I took a deep, steadying breath and walked into my bedroom. My hands trembled as I reached for my phone and dialed a familiar number. Lily, I'm ready to come back to work. The voice on the other end practically shrieked with joy. Are you serious? Susie, you finally snapped out of it. You walking away from your career for a man was the biggest tragedy the fashion design world has ever seen. I'll set everything up for you right now. I forced out a laugh. Thanks. That night, I booked a flight for next month. Lily was so excited that she posted about it online. And right below her post, I saw William's. His username had always been Will, waits for Moonlight. He once told me that Moonlight refers to me and the whole username meant that meeting me was his greatest reward after enduring the hardships of life. But with Luna standing in front of me now, I finally understood. I was never his moon. She was. His latest post was a photo of him, Caleb, and Luna at a dessert shop that afternoon. Sweet treats taste better with sweet people. But William and Caleb hated sweets. Luna's beaming smile burned into my eyes. So it wasn't that they didn't like desserts. They just didn't like eating them with me. Someone commented under his post. Aren't you worried your wife will leave you? William replied with just 3 words. She wouldn't dare. And he was right. I hadn't dared. I was stupid enough to believe him when he said he'd love me forever. I walked away from my career without a second thought to be his perfect wife. And for 8 years, I gave him everything, my support, my love, my loyalty. Now, standing in this house, I had nothing left. Just then, William strolled in and tossed a small cake onto the table. Here. I remember you used to love strawberry. The cake had been sitting out too long. The strawberry on top had already sunk into the melting cream. Was this some kind of joke? Luna's leftovers. I didn't even hesitate, I picked it up and threw it straight into the trash. William's face twisted with rage. What is wrong with you, Susie? Just taking out the trash. His anger flared. Unbelievable. I actually got you something for our anniversary, and this is how you act. You're unbelievable. I let out a slow, mocking laugh. You're right. I am unbelievable. So from now on, every time you buy me something, I'll throw it away. His hand twitched, like he was about to hit me, but at the last second, he turned and punched the framed wedding photo on the wall instead. With a loud crack, the frame shattered, glass shards scattering across the floor. He left. I knelt down and quietly began picking them up. As I stared at my broken reflection, realization settled in. When I cried. I looked exactly like Luna. I stopped. Then, without hesitation, I ripped the photo to shreds. The next morning, Will was up at the crack of dawn. For the first time in 8 years, a man who never even made a cup of coffee actually cooked a full breakfast spread. Luna sat at the table, practically glowing as she took a bite. "Will, you're amazing. This is delicious." He chuckled, his voice warm. "Of course, silly. Who else would I do this for? I made your favorite, cheddar and bacon omelet with a side of blueberry pancakes. You need to eat well and keep your strength up." "Yeah. Pretty auntie, try this. It's the best." The three of them sat there, laughing and chatting, like the perfect little family. Like I was the outsider. When I walked in, Will cleared his throat and glanced at me. "I made a cheddar and spinach quiche. You should have some." "Yeah, Will's cooking is amazing. Try a bite," Luna said sweetly, slicing a piece and placing it on my plate. Expressionless, I picked up the slice and dumped it straight into the trash. Luna's eyes welled up instantly. "Susie, even if you don't like me, you shouldn't throw away Will's effort like that." The second she teared up, Will's expression hardened. His voice snapped with irritation. "Susie Winters, I put up with your attitude last night, but you're still acting like this. What is your problem?" I met his glare, my voice calm. "I have a stomach illness. I can't eat dairy. You didn't know?" Will froze. When Caleb was little, he was a handful. I barely had time to eat properly, constantly skipping meals to keep up with him. Eventually, my stomach gave out. He used to know. He used to be the man who picked every last piece of cheese off my pizza so I could eat. Luna blinked innocently. "Oh, a stomach illness? That's nothing. Even if I had to take medicine after, I'd still eat every bite of a breakfast Will made just for me." Caleb smirked, his voice full of mockery. "Yeah. Pretty auntie's not picky like some people." Will snapped out of his daze and smiled at Luna, his voice dripping with affection. All right, no need to force yourself. It's enough that you appreciate it. Just take it easy." I was done watching their little soap opera. I tossed my fork onto the table and stood up. "Then you'd better eat every bite. Wouldn't want to waste any, now, would we?" Back in my room, I focused on my work. It had been 8 years since I left the design industry, and I was rusty. I needed to catch up. But the laughter outside my door made it impossible to concentrate. Luna's voice rang out, teasing, "So, what do you think of your mom?" Caleb didn't hesitate. "She's so annoying. Always nagging me, dressed like a homeless person, and she never lets me eat snacks." Luna giggled. "And what about me? You take me out to play, you buy me treats, you're the best." She lowered her voice, almost conspiratorial. "Then, would you like to call me your godmother?" Without missing a beat, Caleb's voice turned sugar sweet. "Godmother." Inside my room, my heart turned to ice. Caleb had always been a fragile child, born with a weak constitution. He needed more care than most, and William had never lifted a finger to help. I had given up everything, my career, my independence, to raise him. And yet, in his eyes, I was nothing compared to a woman who took him out for junk food and entertainment. A sudden crack of thunder outside jolted me from my thoughts. It had started to rain. I rushed to the balcony to grab my potted flowers, but when I got there, I froze. They had already been destroyed. The delicate petals had been crushed, the stems snapped and bent beyond repair. Someone had stomped them into the ground. Before I could even process the loss, I heard a sharp click behind me. The lock. I spun around and grabbed the handle. "Caleb, open the door." I pounded on the glass, my voice urgent. Through the window, I saw him grinning. "Godmother, come look. She's a drowned rat." Luna laughed, tapping him playfully on the head. "You little rascal. Come on, let's go buy some snacks." "Yay." Without a second thought, Caleb grabbed Luna's hand and skipped away. He didn't even look back. Lightning streaked across the sky as the rain poured down, soaking me to the bone. I curled up in the corner of the balcony, my entire body trembling from cold and something even worse. I stayed there, watching as the last petal of my flowers was washed away. Only then did William finally unlock the door. Under the harsh glow of the overhead lights, I must have looked like a ghost, pale, drenched, hair plastered to my face. Luna covered her mouth in mock surprise. "Oh dear, Susie, what happened to you?" Caleb peeked out from behind her, sticking out his tongue and making a face at me. William barely spared me a glance before sighing, exasperated. "Susie, you're an adult. How do you even manage to get yourself locked out on the balcony? Be more careful next time." I didn't say a word. I just reached for Caleb, wanting to grab his wrist. William's expression darkened, and in an instant, he shoved me back. "What are you doing? He's just a kid. Are you really picking a fight with a child? He doesn't understand, but you should." The force of his shove knocked me off balance, and I fell hard onto the floor. Luna gasped in fake concern. Caleb, on the other hand, burst into laughter. And in this twisted little courtroom, I, the only victim, had somehow become the one on trial. I looked at them, the father and son, then let out a cold, bitter laugh. One after another. Then, without a word, I stood up and walked toward them. They must have thought I was about to apologize, because both of them smirked, their faces full of mockery. Smack! Smack! I slapped them both. Caleb's eyes widened in shock before he burst into tears, clutching his cheek. "I hate you. You're the worst mom ever. You're just a mean, bitter woman, no wonder no one wants you." William's face darkened, his chest rising and falling with rage. Luna, ever the saint, rushed to play peacemaker. "Susie, Caleb is just a kid. How could you?" Smack. "Shut up." I'd been wanting to hit her for a long time. The second my palm landed, she gasped dramatically, then collapsed in a perfect faint. Caleb's crying stopped instantly, too shocked to react. William panicked, scooping her up in his arms. He shot me a venomous glare as he stormed toward the door. "If Luna's condition gets worse because of this, you'll pay for it." And as if afraid I'd lay a hand on Caleb next, he yanked our son along with him. Good. With them gone, the house was finally quiet. That night, after being stuck in the rain all afternoon, I came down with a fever. Shivering, I dragged myself out of bed, fumbling through the medicine cabinet for something to bring my temperature down. Through my haze, I sensed someone near me. Forcing my eyes open, I was met with Luna's smug, sneering face. "Look at you, Susie. You're like a stray dog. Do you really think William would have chosen you if I hadn't left the country?" She giggled, as if amused by the very idea. "But it doesn't matter now. William only loves me, and even your son only sees me as his mother." Then, with a pitying sigh, she shook her head. "Honestly, a woman like you should just off herself and be done with it." A fresh wave of rage cleared my mind instantly. I didn't hesitate. I raised my hand and slapped her again. Luna's lips curled into a knowing smirk as she stumbled backward, right into William's waiting arms. How convenient. Crocodile tears streamed down her face as she clutched her chest. "William, I was just worried about Susie, so I came to check on her. But she hit me again." She winced dramatically. "William, I feel awful. I've already been slapped twice. Am I dying?" William's expression twisted with fury. His hand shot out, fingers wrapping around my throat. "Do you even realize Luna is sick? You keep hurting her, are you trying to kill her?" The room spun. My vision blurred. Just as I thought I'd black out completely, he finally let go. I collapsed onto the floor, gasping for breath. William glared down at me, voice thick with disgust. "Unbelievable. Luna just got out of the hospital, and you're already making her suffer." Then, as if I wasn't even worth another second of his time, he turned to carry Luna away, probably back to the hospital again. But she stopped him, tugging at his shirt. "No. Let's just go to the bedroom." Minutes later, muffled moans drifted through the walls. I didn't care. My fever had spiked so high that every inch of me ached, my stomach twisting in pain. After crouching on the floor for what felt like forever, I finally forced myself up, grabbed some fever meds, and swallowed them dry. The only good thing that came from Luna's dramatics was that William and Caleb didn't come home for days. The house was blissfully empty. But just as I was starting to enjoy the peace, another problem arose. A call from Caleb's school. He had gotten into a fight. I immediately dialed William's number. He hung up. I exhaled slowly, then texted instead. Caleb got into trouble at school. You should go check on him. His reply was instant. I'm busy. And that was it. No follow-up. No concern. Just like every other time Caleb had gotten himself into a mess, William had no interest in dealing with it. Fine. If he wasn't going, then neither was I. I miscalculated. The elementary school had my number on file, not William's. The teacher called me over and over again, blowing up my phone until I had no choice but to go in. My design drafts would have to wait. But the moment I arrived at the school, I spotted Luna standing right next to Caleb. Two mothers suddenly appearing must have confused the teacher because she looked completely lost. Caleb, however, didn't hesitate. Pointing straight at me, he announced loudly in front of everyone, "She's not my mom. She's just our maid." Then, grinning, he nestled up against Luna. "This is my real mom." Luna reached out and playfully ruffled his hair, casting me a look of open triumph. "Susie, why don't you just go home? I've got everything handled here." I stood there, numb, watching as they stood together, closer than I'd ever been with my own son. Fine. He had made his choice. From now on, Luna was his mother. I forced a smile. "You're right, Caleb. From now on, Luna is your mom. I'll treat it as though I've never given birth to you." After that, I lived in the house like a ghost. I stopped caring about everything. I locked myself in my room, pouring all my energy into design work. And through Lily, I finally got confirmation of something I had long suspected: Luna's medical records were fake. I closed my eyes, piecing together everything she had done. Her lies were sloppy, full of holes. But William's love for her had patched up every one of them. He ignored the inconsistencies, choosing to believe whatever she fed him. I quietly collected the evidence. A farewell gift for William before I left. Maybe it was because he was so used to my anger and defiance, but William seemed unsettled by my sudden indifference. For the first time in years, he started paying attention to me. Flowers, gifts, small gestures, like he was trying to recreate the past. Like we were back in the early days, when he used to swear he'd love me forever. But forever had turned out to be a joke. Not even 8 years. And this time, I wasn't foolish enough to fall for it again. On my birthday, William said he had a surprise for me. And he did. A divorce agreement. His face was pale as he slid the papers across the table. "Luna's condition is getting worse. For her treatment, she'll need someone to sign off on the paperwork. Susie, let's get divorced first." His voice softened, as if afraid I'd refuse. "I promise, once she gets through this, I'll marry you again. I swear it." He kept talking, explaining, swearing on anything he could think of. As if he needed to convince me. But he didn't. I was already going to sign. Of course, before I did, I made one demand: all the assets had to be transferred to me. William hesitated, frowning for the first time. But ultimately, afraid I'd change my mind, he signed without a word. I turned to Caleb. "Who do you want to live with?" He scoffed, looking at me like I was beneath him. "My last name is Larson. Of course I'm staying with Dad. We're the real family." To prove his point, he stuck out his tongue at me, then ran straight to William's side, gripping his hand tightly. I nodded. "Last time at school, you already said Luna was your mom. Now, you finally got your wish. Congratulations." I didn't bother looking at their reactions. I just placed the signed divorce papers in my bag and went upstairs to pack. It didn't take long. I had spent my entire marriage taking care of them, never accumulating much of my own. 10 minutes later, I was gone. On the other side of town, William stared down at the divorce certificate, his chest tightening with something he couldn't name. It felt like he had lost something. Something important. But then his phone lit up with a message from Luna, her usual bright, adoring smile filling the screen. He exhaled slowly, convincing himself. She loves me. No matter what I do, she always forgives me. She'll come back. She always does. This is just another fight. That's all. But when he returned home, he was met with something he hadn't expected. An empty house. Everything had been packed away, the space eerily neat, like someone had erased all traces of her existence. His stomach dropped. Heart pounding, he ran to her room. She was gone. The only thing left on the desk was a folder. William picked it up with trembling hands, flipping it open. Inside, evidence. Proof that Luna's cancer had been a lie all along.